welcome to Manch Talk. I am Tammy Garthwaite.
Hey guys, I'm Carla Garrick.
I am really tired.
And
I've dressed appropriately. I wore my hat all day yesterday. I am having a good morning. How about you?
I am having a good morning too. I feel like everything is as it should
Exactly.
be because it is what it is, right? And so the reality of life is you gotta deal with whatever life hands you. Half the country probably feels like they were handed lemons, but the other half are actually pretty happy. For me personally, I'm thrilled that Trump got elected because I want my friend Ross Ulbricht out of prison.
Yeah, even Dan said that this morning. He goes, "Oh," I said, "Yeah." I said, he did say he would pardon him, so we'll see how quickly that transpires.
Well, of course, I mean, the power hasn't been transferred yet. Kamala actually has not given a concession speech yet, and I saw a really
haven't spoke.
funny tweet this morning.
Wait, but this is what she would say. I was raised in a middle-class family.
Well, someone posted and said, what are the odds, or like what were people thinking about the concession speech? And I was like, with or without a teleprompter,
right?
Because that's also an issue,
right?
But yes, so it is the day after the election. New Hampshire did a very interesting and unique thing, which is uniquely New Hampshire-y, but I really don't fully understand it. So the short answer is House, Senate, and governorship to the Republicans in New Hampshire. Massive 222 majority in the House.
No,
maybe
224,
even more.
176 before the show.
So two more than when I checked a couple.
Okay, now I gotta tell you, the best news of the day.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm biased, but it is without a doubt the best news. Victoria Sullivan's going to be a state senator and ousted Donna Soucy yesterday.
Yes.
It did not.
I was building up to that, but you know how Tammy is.
Well, I did spend the last 4 months helping this happen. But that was an interesting race to be part of. When Victoria came to me back in, March, and said, I think I'm going to take on Donna Soucy. I thought, okay, well, let me look at those numbers before I say anything. And I looked at the numbers and I thought, I don't know. I think you might be able to actually do this if we raise enough money and we do this and we do this. And so she went and she got in, did the things. Some people promised her more than they delivered, which is very not okay. Some people just suck in general. There are people that should have been helping Senate candidates, like the Manchester Republican Committee, who refused to help any of the Senate candidates in Manchester, and that is not an okay thing.
Well, here's the reality, right? So politics is ugly. People don't support people in the ways, I'm pretty butthurt about things too, but here's the reality. What does it matter, right? So Victoria got the outcome she wanted despite people standing in her way, and that actually makes her more powerful and more influential, right? Because it is the will of the people. It was people who understood how to run the race, people who understood Manchester, understood what Manchester voters wanted, and she did the work.
Well, that's the thing. Victoria Sullivan, whether you like her, hate her, whatever, you want to be a naysayer, whatever, because trust me, there are plenty of naysayers. I can't tell you how many times the two of us had to hear, but she can't win, she can't win. And I was like, well, if you keep saying she can't win, you're helping her not win. She works harder than any other candidate that I know. She was out knocking doors like every day. She would spend whole days on the phone trying to raise money, which was torturous because, to be honest, Kelly Ayotte, it wasn't just New Hampshire, Kelly Ayotte sucked all the funding out of all of New Hampshire, out of all of Massachusetts. It was a bizarre thing. Everybody was struggling to raise money. In the end, she did end up raising upwards of $50,000 for her race, which is
but that's a cheap race to win then, too, honestly.
But Donna spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on her race. But Victoria worked hard. Victoria had name recognition. And, despite what some would say, like we had people who actually said, Victoria should probably not do so much on social media. Well, how do you think she's raising money? Every time she did a video, she raised money. I could see the money coming in. And, maybe you shouldn't align yourself with Trump so much. Maybe you shouldn't do this. And I was like, so what do you want her to be, some vanilla candidate? That vanilla candidate's not going to get elected.
Well, so also here's the reality, you know, and for anyone who's following along who's wondering what happened, I did not make it. I also did not really run a campaign.
Well,
I put
all
out,
of the floterials really struggled. I looked and
well, you know, so for me, it's also an issue that, you know, I'm not sure politics as usual is really going to be the way to go anymore. Like, I've just decided, I don't know about these. Like, I actually think social media, always staying in the news, working in your community, being current, you know, doing your business outreach, doing all the normal stuff that make you a normal person that people go, oh, I know that person and I like them, right?
Well, that makes it.
You know, and I am fine. We all get a little nasty on Twitter from time to time, right? But
we all have emotions.
You know, so fine. But honestly, like, I think people have to start to think about these campaigns differently. I was thinking about it with I mean, I think the door knocking does work, right? But I think this money equals success thing is not really how it is anymore because spreading information has gotten cheaper.
Right, and I had a conversation, not the same subject matter, but similar subject matter. We were talking yesterday, and I was saying how, you know, you get people, you know, I've been playing in this political arena for, you know, 20, 30 years, right? You know, win and lose races, and you always come back to the same thing. Things do change, like, you know, social media is a new thing. There wasn't social media 20 years ago. But the reality is there is no secret sauce to winning. There is a cookie recipe on how to make the election cookie. Everybody knows the recipe. It's whether or not you can activate and follow the recipe and do the things that you have to get to be able to make that proper cookie. There's no secret sauce. There's no secret ingredient that only a couple people know. We all know what the ingredients are. We all know that you have to knock on doors. We all know you have to get your name out there in front of people. We all know you have to be right on the issues that the people in your constituency care about. That's part of the reason why Victoria did so well, in my opinion. She was talking about the things that the people in that district actually cared about. Guess what nobody really cares about? Abortion. Guess what else nobody cares about? Climate control. You know what people care about?
Their groceries that are expensive.
Bill, and education, and crime, and the border. And keeping the boys out of the girls' locker rooms and out of girls' sports across the country. That is such a simple concept that the Democrats wanted us to believe that nobody cared about.
I'm going to tell a terrible joke, take it for what it is, but it made me laugh out loud on Twitter today, so how can I not share the insult across the board? It was a tweet that said, a man hasn't beat a woman this hard since the Olympics.
Right? That is funny, though.
Well,
but that'll get
twisted
that
someone, but who
so
cares?
That'll be you support men beating up women because that's
no,
how
of course
everything
I don't
is. Right.
support
no,
that.
I'm saying
it's a joke,
right,
folks.
But that's how.
No, let's talk about what I support. So my campaign ad, I'm going to play it. It's my last hurrah here on Manch Talk. It's 2 minutes long, so if our producer could cue it up. Here was my campaign ad brought to you by One Brilliant Mind and the AI.
Meet Carla Garrick, a fierce defender of liberty. As an immigrant from South Africa, Carla knows the value of freedom firsthand. From the shadows of apartheid to the front lines of Silicon Valley, Carla has always stood her ground. A successful attorney who navigated the dot-com boom, she's not afraid to take on the powerful elite. When she moved to New Hampshire, she found a new mission, defending the rights of the people in the live free or die state. And when the Weir PD violated those rights, she fought back. In 2014, Carla won a landmark First Amendment case that protects the rights of 13 million Americans to film police officers in public. It's a victory that echoes across the nation. She's a tireless advocate, working with the ACLU to protect your privacy, exposing corruption in law enforcement, and standing up to government overreach. Carla has been censored for discussing Hunter Biden's laptop, mRNA vaccine safety, and informed consent. For almost 2 decades, Carla has represented the live free or die spirit of New Hampshire. Carla fell in love with New Hampshire the moment she arrived. But it's not just the natural beauty that captured her. It's the spirit of independence, the limited government. Carla Garrick, a newcomer with a plan, a fighter with a cause, and a leader with the courage to stand up for everyone equally. On Election Day, vote for the candidate who's been fighting for you all along. Vote Carla Garrick for the House of Representatives District 40. Because New Hampshire deserves a leader who won't back down. Live free or die. Live free and thrive. Vote Carla Garrick this November.
So actually, that wasn't too bad.
Right?
I mean, if that was 4 weeks ago and you were able to tweak it, this is my opinion.
Right.
I mean, I don't mind all that. If you were coming to me and saying, okay, what would you do with this? Okay, so I might have taken, I would have backed off a little on our enjoyment, but it wasn't terrible for an AI.
Well, it wasn't just AI. I did work with a very good guy, but the
flow.
script I think was actually really good. But like there are a couple of images where
You're
I'm like,
oh.
is that like some random Carla from the internet? Some lady in between. So that kind of stuff was fascinating. But I was like, imagine 4 years from now what we can generate at, again, the lower costs.
Right.
So what I'm excited about is to start to go, money shouldn't be the absolute determining power of who gets elected, right? And so as technology makes these tools available to us, so then it becomes ideas and how nimble are you, right?
Yeah.
So,
because that is something in fairness that Victoria and I, you raise money and then we're like, okay, now we have to, let's go through our plan. And we had a mail plan, but then you start, really thinking it through that like, well, okay, I don't want to just waste my money on mail because I get the mail and it all just goes in this little stack because I just save it. I don't actually even, oh, look, I got one for so-and-so, one for so-and-so, one for so-and-so. I don't read the content. It doesn't influence my decision. Not that it's going to influence. But so then, and we decided on how much we would spend on digital and whatnot because that's a different venue. And I think Victoria ended up making her own little video, but we got talking about like even placement for digital and I was like, this is not something I don't know how to, like, could I place digital? Sure. I'm not spending my day placing digital, so that's where, there's a money aspect of it, but you're right that it's not going to cost you $2,500 to create a 30-second ad anymore.
No, I mean, so someone like me actually ran into the censorship issues again, where I'm like, I can't even really post things in certain places at certain times, and I mean, it's just bananas, right? So there is a barrier to entry there. But you know what? Given sort of where I think New Hampshire fell out on the election, so again, weirdly, everything on the congressional level went to the Democrats.
Yeah, it always seems to do that.
Pappas and Goodlander, but then. So help me understand this, okay? Because everyone who voted yesterday, right? Like you go in, first of all, I was like, I kind of feel like they should have told you there's a back end to the ballot because I think a lot of people did not know that. I didn't even see the ballot question.
It is interesting that you say that because when I pulled up the sample ballots to print to have with me, I went to hit print and it was 2 pages. So I was like, oh, there's a second page. And I thought, oh. And I do think sometimes the wards don't do a good enough job because it is kind of up to the wards or the city to say, here's,
I think maybe
put
like
a sign
hack could be handed to them with the short side so that you flip it over because everyone's like, oh, I'm here to vote president.
Or put a sign in, I don't know how your voting booth was, but, put a sign in the voting booth that says ballot is double, that shows the ballot. So people are like, oh, how come I don't have that?
So that was weird. But then the question is, so that would mean you're looking at your ballot and you're going over here on the Democrat side for all these people. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, but here. So people have been asking me because, of course, I'm trying to bring more people to New Hampshire who share our values, who want to keep New Hampshire awesome, who want and understand the New Hampshire advantage. And I was like, well, maybe it's an issue of actually, these are the transplants. These are sort of the people where they're like, oh, I think I'm a Democrat, but also I moved to New Hampshire for the New Hampshire advantage, for the low taxes, for the wealth protection, for all the things that we do like here. Because otherwise, it doesn't make sense to me. Otherwise, genuinely, I'm like, is there a machine that just cheats on that part? Because it's weird.
It is weird. I mean, I guess we're that typical state where, I mean, you see the same thing with city politics versus state politics don't always go this. I mean, look, we got barely any Republicans ever on the school board, but yet we got an aldermanic board that's Republican. So how is it that you vote for the Democrat for the school board, but the Republican to run the city? So there's like always this weird dichotomy where I do think some of it is just name recognition, and like I like this one better, I'm better than that one. On the CD races, in this specific race we were talking about,
I mean, it was money, I think.
Money, and somebody had a good point that, like, you know, it's not that I didn't think about it, but it was funny to hear it from somebody. I was out in Wakefield the other day doing a side wave for Trump, and I asked somebody, I said, who do you think will win in the races? And everybody I know is like, well, I'd really like to think that Lily will win, but I think she's just been outspent. And I do think in her race, it was money, and I also think a lot of her big support that she had, in case you missed this, came just too late.
Too late.
So Robert Kennedy Jr.
Endorsed her.
Not only endorsed her, but only endorsed her.
Right.
She is the only candidate in the country that he endorsed, but he did it like 2 days before the election. It was kind of like with Trump with, you know, Joe Rogan endorsing him the night before, and you're like, oh, that would have been quite.
Well, so for Lily, it was RFK.
Yeah.
Both reshared her
Yeah,
stuff,
and then
but then
then
did
Rogan
a video.
went up, got
then
it.
Joe Rogan's
Yeah.
podcast endorsed her as well. So I think it was a little too late.
It just was
maybe
right.
A little like
If that had been a week or two earlier,
Right.
that might have been enough
Yeah.
to shift enough voters. You know, like, I don't know. CD2's always been pretty squishy.
I mean, it's so weird when you even look at the CD2 map and you're just like, oh man, this is some kind of game.
So
that's being
I said, well, what do you
there.
think about Russell? You know, what do you think will happen with Russell Prescott? We both.
What did happen on the EC?
We took all the seats.
Aha!
so
the advantage is going to
So with Russell Prescott out there in Carroll County, somebody goes, yeah, you're not going to win unless the person's from Manchester. And I was like, what? And then I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, that is an interesting thing, because you look at the number of votes that get cast in Manchester. You know, there were, I don't know, 48,000 votes, almost 49,000 votes just in Manchester. As opposed to, so, like, did a lot of people know who Russell Prescott really was?
Probably
not, because you only have so much time. So sometimes, when you're running, I mean, and Chris Pappas is from Manchester.
Well, and also the Pappas family is an institution in town, right? So, like, I always laugh because where I drop into one of the trails where I walk my dog, there's a guy, and he's a trucker, and he always has his Pappas sign out, but we always chit chat, when I'm walking the dog or whatever, and he'll always be like, Carla, I'm a Pappas supporter, but, and then he'll be like soft, like, oh, maybe me and my family will vote for you this time, that kind of stuff, right? And just the way it's presented, it's just kind of like it's an institution. It's like the Puritan the Puritan back room.
Well, I think some of that played into maybe why Donna Soucy got beat too, is that, every year everybody gets a little bit older, and not as many people remember Donna Soucy's father.
Right.
And not as many people are obligated to the Soucy name.
I mean, I feel like the Pappases are at
so,
the end of their...
as time goes by, a good...
I mean, that's a big shock, the Soucy thing, because wasn't she
she would have been... If the
the
Democrats took control of the Senate, she would have been the Senate president.
So who else made it in the Senate? I heard we picked up 5.
Tim McHugh, who... Oh, no, we didn't pick up 5.
Okay.
Well, we might have won 5, but we didn't pick up 5 net.
Okay.
We did win the seat in Senate District 1, but I think that was Kerry Gendron. So it was already a Republican, but now it's a different Republican.
Okay.
Tim Lang won his seat. Mark McConkey, even though it doesn't show it fully reporting, I believe Mark McConkey won out in my new home district there out there. Couple Democrats, that's a Democrat, that's a Democrat. James Graves, Republican, won his reelection. Dan Innes won his reelection. Ruth Ward, Denise Ricciardi.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Yeah, although according to this, it was a little closer than a lot of them. Democrat out in Cheshire. Tim McHugh took out Shannon Shanley in the Merrimack Amherst district. Kevin Avard actually did really well. Everybody was worried about his race. Cindy Rosenwald, I don't know if she was a senator or she was, but that's a Democrat seat. Sharon Carson won. Tara Reardon won in Concord, but she was replacing another Democrat. Keith Murphy won in North Manchester and surrounding towns. Howard Pearl retained his Republican seat. Victoria took out Donna. Regina Birdsdale won. Pat Long won the seat that Lou had. This Democrat still was there. Darrell Abbas won in Salem's, kept that Republican seat. Bill Gannon, Republicans kept that seat. The only Republican, I think, who ran and didn't like that was Pat Abrami. They thought might have been able to take out Deb Altshuler and didn't. Okay. Executive Council, Joe Kenny, Kim Strathty, Republican, Janet Stevens, Republican, John Stephen, Republican, and Dave Wheeler, Republican. So that means we have it'll be an interesting thing because we do have all of the branches. We'll have a majority in the House, a majority in the Senate. So the Senate majority actually went from 14-10 to 16-8. That's going to be interesting, and that dynamic has changed. I don't want to make bigger things out of Victoria than it is, but Keith Murphy just got a really good ally.
Yeah, and we do know historically the Senate is where good bulls go to die.
Dan says first day on Victoria becoming the new enemy.
It's and when I say that, I mean like good bills, like something like Defend the Guard, right? Where it's like we're actually
accounts.
Right. They've been bad on that as well.
I thought about that this morning. When they started waking back up and everything, I'm like, okay, so no abortion bill is going to come through because the governor's going to veto it. So they're not going to do it. You can bring up the bills and they're not going to pass. And the governor's going to veto it. So they'll either pass them they won't pass them though, because that would be political. That would be bad for political gains, because giving up your political clout for something you said you wouldn't do isn't worth it when you know the governor's going to veto it.
Someone will probably introduce a bill. Yeah. Is it political suicide? Probably, right?
But I don't even think the House will.
The way the nation, is like. Again, I'm just like, can we get back to safe, legal, and rare, and just stop talking about it and move on from there.
The Senate will have a little bit different dynamic. Jeb Bradley won't be the Senate president, I presume, although it's not assumed that Sharon Carson will be the Senate president. I know that Tim Lang has interest in that, but I don't.
I think it works on seniority, and she
they vote on it just like the House. But I think she'll be the Senate president because those people that have already been there. I don't know. Anything could happen. The governor and the executive council, so contracts and stuff like that. Here in Manchester, for those, because people are always like, where do I get the information? I think Ben Prescott in Ward 2 is probably close enough to do a recount to try to sneak into that seat. The biggest, Will Infantine lost his seat to Dan Bergeron. I had a talk with him last night late because we were talking about the results at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And he said, he goes, Bergeron just deals with the younger crowd. He hangs with this younger crowd and everything. And Will's like, he's really okay with it. You get to a point where you're kind of like, if you lose, that just means you have more time on your hands. Kathleen Paquette did win in Ward 5. That was her second try at it, and good for her for picking up a seat there. Larry Gagne retained his seat. Brian Cole retained his seat. Mark McLean and Mark Prue both won in their respective seats, and we were really a little worried about that because they were running against Tommy Katsiantonis, who actually wanted to run as a Republican because he was a registered Republican for about 5 years, and the Republican Party in Manchester told him no. So he said, fine, then I'll run back. I'll go back and run as a Democrat. It doesn't work. That's not the way it's supposed to work.
Right.
So they bullied him. Basically you bullied him to say, no, we're not going to let you run as a Republican, which you can't do. And then he ran as a Democrat, which was really not. I mean, it worked out okay in the end. But to be honest, all day yesterday in Ward 8, we all presumed that Tommy would take one seat, which meant either Mark Prue or Mark McLean would lose their seat, and that's not a winning
So the Marks went through, then Mark Warden went
Mark
through
Warden
in
got
Ward
through
8,
with
right?
John Morton, so both
Nice.
of those floterials, and I don't think those were both Republican, because it was Ross
No.
Berry and somebody, and now it's John Morton and Mark Warden, so that's a good thing.
It did look like maybe Carlos Gonzalez was going to pick up.
I don't think he did,
No?
though, because I've got the unofficial.
See, because I was looking and not everything was reported, and it doesn't tell you which wards are reporting.
The
So it's
city's
like, oh.
unofficial numbers, I'm sorry, they're all over the place here. The unofficial numbers have, it would be Mark McKenzie, Aaron Kerwin. No, he's close, but no, he's not that close, actually. He's 300 and some votes out.
So, yeah, the floats did struggle.
Yeah.
I mean,
Except for in Ward 8.
When do they redistrict again?
I don't know. It's like every 10 years,
Yeah,
isn't it?
so it'll be coming up maybe in
But
2028.
Pierre DuPont did win in Ward 9.
Okay.
So that was good. So that's a pickup. Matt Drew did win in Ward 10.
So it'll be interesting to see what
And I
this
think
sort of
Hester Lynn-
legislative agenda is going to
Well,
be.
that's what I thought this
you
morning. I
know.
said, what'll be the most interesting to watch is the education freedom accounts.
Yeah,
Because quite honestly, I mean, they'd have to take the pulse of the Senate, but I was thinking about it, and I'm like, depends on how many people in the Senate are willing to vote for it, because they probably have the votes to just say, okay, everybody's eligible for education freedom accounts.
And that would be a huge win for
I mean,
all Granite
but they'd
Staters.
have to actually look at the budget, probably. No, I'm just saying. I talked with Dan McGuire, and he was talking about the $500,000. I'm sorry, I have a voice in this too. A $500,000. Yeah, we have a big budget hole because of revenue numbers. So, can you do education freedom accounts in one shot? But there are other things. I don't think pot's not going anywhere, because she'll veto it. So, I mean, tweak that a little, maybe make possession less. What else could happen there? Can we improve the 91A?
I don't know, Tammy. Can I finish a sentence? All right, I think we're out of time as it is. So that's it for this week's Manch Talk. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Enjoy the day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.